Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another thrilling adventure from the world of tomorrow. Tonight, we invite you to journey with us across the vast expanse of space to witness one of the most remarkable stories ever told, the story of a baby from a distant world, a world called Krypton. So gather close to your radio sets, dim the lights, and let your imagination soar as we present Superman, the baby from Krypton. Our story begins far from Earth, on a magnificent planet orbiting a red sun in a distant galaxy. Krypton was a world of incredible beauty and scientific achievement, where crystalline cities reached toward the heavens, and the greatest minds in the universe worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of creation itself. Among these brilliant scientists was Kal-El, a man whose wisdom was matched only to his compassion, and his beloved wife Lara, whose gentle heart and fierce intelligence made her the perfect companion for such a remarkable man. Together they lived in the great city of Kandor, where they had recently welcomed the most precious gift imaginable, their infant son, Kal-El. But all was not well in this paradise among the stars. Deep within Krypton's core, forces beyond imagination were stirring. The planet's very foundation was beginning to crack and shift, and only Jor-El, with his advanced instruments and calculations, could see the terrible truth that his fellow Kryptonians refused to acknowledge. The red sun that had given life to their world for countless millennia was now pulling their planet toward certain doom. Krypton was dying, and time was running short. Night after night, Jor-El stood before the ruling council of Krypton, his voice echoing through the great chamber as he pleaded with his people to see reason. "My fellow Kryptonians," he would say, his words heavy with urgency, "the data is unmistakable. Our planet faces complete destruction within a matter of days. We must begin immediate evacuation procedures. We must save our people, our culture, our very civilization." But the council members, proud and set in their ways, dismissed his warnings as the ravings of an alarmist. Krypton has stood for 10,000 years. It will stand for 10,000 more. As the precious hours slipped away and his pleas fell upon deaf ears, Jor-El realized that he could not save his entire world, but perhaps he could save what mattered most to him, his son. Working frantically in his laboratory, surrounded by the most advanced technology Krypton had ever known, he began construction of a small rocket ship, just large enough to carry one tiny passenger to safety among the stars. Every circuit, every component was crafted with the love of a desperate father and the precision of a master scientist. Meanwhile, Lara tended to their precious baby, singing gentle lullabies in the ancient language of Krypton, while the very ground beneath their feet trembled with increasing violence. She knew, as mothers always do, that their time together was drawing to a close. With tears streaming down her face, she carefully packed the symbols of their world, a small blanket woven with the crest of the House of El, recorded messages containing the wisdom of their civilization, and most importantly, all the love that two parents could pour into a final gift to their child. The final night arrived with terrifying swiftness. The red sun blazed angry in the sky as massive earthquakes shook the crystalline towers of Kandor. In his laboratory, Jor-El made the final adjustments to the rocket ship, while Lara held their son close to her heart one last time. "My beloved Kal-El," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the growing chaos outside. "Though you will grow up far from the world of your birth, know that you carry within you the best of Krypton. Be strong, be kind, and use the gifts you will discover to help those who cannot help themselves." Jor-El activated the navigation systems, programming coordinates for a small blue planet he had observed in his studies, a world called Earth, where the inhabitants resembled Kryptonians and where their sun might find acceptance and love. The yellow sun of that world will give him abilities beyond imagination, Jor-El explained to Lara as they placed their baby in the small vessel. But more important than any power is the heart we have tried to nurture in him. May the people of Earth help that heart to grow. With the planet literally cracking apart around them, Jor-El sealed the rocket ship and initiated the launch sequence. The small vessel rose into the crimson sky just as the final cataclysm began. Krypton, the jewel of the galaxy, exploded in a burst of light visible across the cosmos, taking with it an entire civilization and leaving only memories, dreams, and one small rocket ship carrying the last sun of a dead world toward an uncertain destiny. For months, the tiny ship traveled through the cold emptiness of space, its precious cargo sleeping peacefully, while automated systems maintained life support and monitored the journey. Past distant suns and through asteroid fields, beyond the boundaries of known space, the vessel carried its sleeping passenger toward the small blue world that would become his new home. With the planet literally cracking apart around them, Jor-El sealed the rocket ship and initiated the launch sequence. The small vessel rose into the crimson sky just as the final cataclysm began. Krypton, the jewel of the galaxy, exploded in a burst of light visible across the cosmos, taking with it an entire civilization and leaving only memories, dreams, and one small rocket ship carrying the last sun of a dead world toward an uncertain destiny. For months, the tiny ship traveled through the cold emptiness of space, its precious cargo sleeping peacefully, while automated systems maintained life support and monitored the journey. Past distant suns and through asteroid fields, beyond the boundaries of known space, the vessel carried its sleeping passenger toward the small blue world that would become his new home. On Earth, in the rural farmlands of Kansas, a kind-hearted couple named Jonathan and Martha Kent were driving down a country road on their way home from visiting friends in the neighboring town of Granville. The evening was peaceful, with a gentle spring breeze rustling through the wheat fields and the first stars beginning to appear in the twilight sky. Jonathan, a man whose weathered hands spoke of years of honest farm work, was telling his wife about plans for expanding their barn when a brilliant streak of light blazed across the heavens above them. "Did you see that, Martha?" Jonathan asked, pulling their truck to the side of the road as the mysterious object disappeared beyond a hill. Martha, whose gentle eyes missed nothing and whose compassionate heart was always ready to help those in need, nodded with concern. "That looked like it came down in the old Miller field," she said. "Maybe we should go take a look. Could be someone needs help." Together they climbed the hill and discovered something that would change their lives forever. A small crater in the earth, still warm from impact, and within it a strange vessel unlike anything they had ever seen. As they approached cautiously, the ship opened with a soft hiss, revealing the most beautiful baby either of them had ever laid eyes upon. The child was perhaps 6 months old, with dark hair and the most remarkable blue eyes that seemed to hold depths of wisdom far beyond his tender years. Martha's maternal instincts immediately took over as she reached into the strange craft and lifted the baby into her arms. "Oh, Jonathan," she whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. "He's perfect. But where could he have come from?" Jonathan examined the unusual metal of the ship, noting its incredible craftsmanship and the strange symbols etched into its surface. "I don't rightly know, Martha," he replied. "But one thing's for certain, this little fella needs a home, and the good Lord knows we've been praying for a child for years." Without hesitation, they took the baby back to their farmhouse, where Martha immediately set about making him comfortable, and Jonathan carefully hid the strange ship in their barn. They decided to tell their neighbors that the child was a distant relative they had agreed to raise, and they named him Clark, after Martha's father. From that very first night, Clark Kent became their son in every way that mattered, and the love they poured into raising him would shape the man he would eventually become. As Clark grew from baby to toddler to young boy, the Kents began to notice that their adopted son was unusual. At age 2, he accidentally bent steel spoons while eating. At 4, he could lift objects that should have been far too heavy for such a small child. By the time he started school, Martha and Jonathan realized they were raising someone very special indeed, though they still had no idea just how special he truly was. Jonathan, wise in the ways of character building, made sure that every display of Clark's growing abilities was accompanied by a lesson in responsibility and kindness. "Clark, my boy," he would say as they worked together in the fields, "it's not what a man can do that makes him special. It's what he chooses to do that counts. These gifts you have, whatever their source, they're meant to help folks, not to show off or gain advantage over others." Martha, with her nurturing heart, helped Clark understand the importance of compassion and humility. When other children teased the shy boy who always seemed to hold back during games and sports, Martha would comfort him with gentle wisdom. "Sometimes, Clark," she would tell him as they baked cookies together in their warm kitchen, "the strongest thing a person can do is to be gentle. The mightiest oak tree bends with the wind rather than breaking, and that's how it survives the storm." As Clark entered his teenage years, his abilities continued to develop in ways that amazed and sometimes frightened his adopted parents. He could run faster than any horse, leap over their barn in a single bound, and see through solid objects as if they were made of glass. It was during this time that Jonathan decided Clark was old enough to learn the truth about his origins. On a crisp autumn evening, as they walked through the fields where cornstalks rustled in the gentle breeze, Jonathan led his son to the barn where the spacecraft had remained hidden for over 15 years. "Son," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "there's something your mother and I have been meaning to show you, something that might help explain why you're so different from other folks." Clark stood in stunned silence as his father revealed the strange vessel that had brought him to Earth. Running his fingers over the alien symbols, he felt a deep connection to something he couldn't quite understand, a longing for knowledge about where he came from and why he had been sent to this world. But even as questions flooded his mind, Clark realized that the most important truth remained unchanged. Jonathan and Martha Kent were his parents in every way that truly mattered, and the values they had instilled in him were more precious than any powers he might possess. That night, as the family sat around their kitchen table, sharing Martha's homemade apple pie, they talked long into the evening about what Clark's future might hold. "We may not know where you came from, son," Jonathan said, his weathered hand resting on Clark's shoulder, "but we know what kind of man we've tried to raise you to be. Whatever challenges lie ahead, remember that your greatest strength isn't in your muscles or your special abilities. It's in your character." Martha nodded in agreement, her eyes shining with pride and love. "The world is full of people who need help, Clark. People who are lost, frightened, or in danger through no fault of their own. If you choose to use your gifts to help them, you'll never lack for purpose or meaning in your life." As Clark grew into young adulthood, he began to venture beyond the borders of Smallville, always returning home with stories of people he had helped along the way.
A family whose car had broken down in a snowstorm, construction workers trapped by a collapsed building, a child who had fallen into a raging river. Each act of heroism was performed in secret, with Clark always careful to avoid recognition or reward. But even as he helped others, Clark continued to wonder about his true origins and the meaning behind the strange symbols on his spacecraft. Late at night, he would study the vessel in the barn, trying to decipher the alien writing and understand the technology that had brought him across the cosmos. Though he couldn't read the symbols, something deep within him responded to them, as if they were trying to tell him something important about his heritage and his destiny. The answer came on his 21st birthday, when the spacecraft suddenly activated in response to his touch. A shimmering hologram appeared before him, the image of a tall, dignified man in strange clothing, speaking words that somehow Clark could understand, despite never having heard the language before. "My son," the figure said, and Clark knew instinctively that he was looking upon his birth father for the first time. "If you are seeing this message, then you have survived the journey from Krypton and grown to manhood on the world we chose as your new home." Jor-El's hologram continued, explaining the destruction of Krypton, the advanced civilization that had been lost, and the reason Clark possessed such remarkable abilities under Earth's yellow sun. "You are the last son of Krypton, Kal-El. But you are also a son of Earth. The best of both worlds flows in your veins, and with it comes a responsibility greater than any individual has ever borne. You have the power to be a force for good in the universe, to stand as a symbol of hope for all who face darkness and despair." As the message concluded, Clark, now understanding his true name was Kal-El, felt the weight of destiny settling upon his shoulders. But rather than feeling burdened, he felt liberated. At last he understood his purpose and the reason he had been blessed with such incredible abilities. He was meant to be a guardian, a protector of the innocent, a symbol that even in the darkest times there was always hope. That evening, as he shared this revelation with Jonathan and Martha, the three of them worked together to design a costume that would both honor his Kryptonian heritage and represent the values they had instilled in him as a family. Martha, with her skilled hands and loving heart, crafted a suit of blue, red, and yellow, colors that would inspire hope and confidence in those who saw them. On the chest, they placed the symbol from his baby blanket, the crest of the House of El, which Jor-El's message had revealed meant hope in the ancient Kryptonian language. And so it was that Clark Kent, the baby from Krypton who had been raised with love and wisdom on a farm in Kansas, prepared to step forward into his destiny as Superman, protector of the innocent, defender of justice, and eternal symbol of hope for all humanity. The shy farm boy who had always held back was ready to show the world what one person could accomplish when strength was guided by compassion, when power was tempered by humility, and when an alien orphan chose to make Earth his home and all its people his family. As our story draws to a close tonight, dear listeners, remember that within each of us lies the potential for heroism. We may not possess the ability to leap tall buildings or stop speeding trains, but we all have the power to help others, to stand up for what is right, and to be a source of hope in someone else's darkest hour. The baby from Krypton became Superman, not because of his remarkable abilities, but because of the love and values instilled in him by two simple Kansas farmers who understood that true strength comes from the heart. And so, as Superman prepared to soar into the sky for the first time, ready to begin his endless mission to protect and serve humanity, the legacy of Krypton lived on, not in advanced technology or incredible powers, but in the simple truth that hope, love, and compassion are the greatest forces in any universe. This has been another adventure from the world of tomorrow. Until we meet again, remember to look up in the sky, keep hope alive in your hearts, and never forget that tomorrow's heroes are being shaped by today's acts of kindness and courage. Good night, and thank you for joining us for this timeless tale of Superman, the baby from Krypton.